Here I am with Mark Tansey from Livingston, long-time Livingston inhabitant,
Yeah.
and current lead singer of Reality Asylum.
Oh, evening.
Evening. We're just going to go through some kind of like, because I've known you since I was 11, 12, of when I
Must
moved
be,
up.
what,
Moved up.
43 years, 44
Yeah.
years, something.
We moved to Livingston in '78, and for me that was a big culture clash, because kind of like as soon as I met the first people I met in Livingston, everybody was dressed as a punk. Kids the same age as me, and dressed as a punk. I mean, just kind of like having pen writing on T-shirts or jackets, you know, Sham 69, Sex Pistols, or the Clash. So it was like straight away just walking into this, what the fuck is this? You know, so I can't remember the exact date or when we met, but I've got to presume that it would have been post summer 1978. So were you born in Livingston?
I was actually born in Bangor Hospital. My dad was in the army, so he was stationed down in Aldershot, and my mum wanted me born in Scotland because she was Scottish. So they came up here. My grandparents were Scottish. They lived in Dechman. So I was born up here, stayed in Dechman for about 6 months, moved back down south with my mum and my dad. Kind of bounced about a wee bit for maybe 3-4 years. My wee brother was born. He was born in Wales when we were stationed there. Then after my dad got out of the army, we moved back up to Scotland. I was 1970 we moved back up here. I was born in 66 and we moved back up to Scotland then. And I've been in Deans ever since. Not the same house, obviously. I've had 3 or 4 different houses, but I've been in this one the last 27 years, mortgage free as well. So it's a bit of a bonus.
That's the bonus. So you must have gone to Dean's Primary School, didn't you?
I went there from primary 1 to primary 7 because I was a big, I don't know if you remember these, we used to call them chest warmer badges, the big huge, you know, as opposed to the 25mm punk badge that you got, we used to call them chest warmers. And I had a rainbow badge. I was mad keen on rainbow when we broke up in primary 7 and then leaving the school and going up to the high school, because it was well, you remember yourself, it was the community high school where you could have your mum and your dad could be sitting in your English class with you. The guy who owns the local shop could have been sitting in your art class. It was supposed to be the flagship of education, if you like, you know what I mean? But it was a mad old time back then. So by the time I went from primary to secondary school, I'd discovered punk, and that was it. But you remember the big dinner hall?
Yeah.
We used to always go in, and well, I was going to say don't tell anybody, but obviously people see this. But I mean, we used to go in with 1 Harrington and stick 7 Harringtons on top of it and nip it, and then you sell them for your carry-out money for the disco on the Friday night. I mean, I remember seeing you had a cracking pair of black bondage trousers that had the buckle straps across the legs.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's a brilliant idea. How can I make them? Do you remember the snorkel parkas that used to zip right up and you had that bit there? Well, there's a wee buckle on the top. So I went into the canteen when people were having their lunch, and all these hang-up jackets. And I went in and I sliced all these buckles off. And I made myself a pair of bondage trousers exactly the same as yours, because I thought yours were absolutely fucking brilliant, man.
But that's what it was all about, wasn't it? It was all about doing your own clothes, because there was no.
It was DIY. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no clothes shops in Edinburgh at that point. I think there was one later on in Frederick Street. I know there was, but that was quite expensive, and you didn't have any money. Nobody had any money back in 78, 79, you know?
Radar. There was a shop in Edinburgh called Radar. They used to do punk gear, and there was a place in Coburn Street. Oh, God, I can't remember the name of that. But that
it was
used
the
to
hippie
sell...
market, wasn't it, down the bottom?
That's right. Well, it was further up the hill for that. Pie in the Sky is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
But the one further up the hill, what the hell was it called? Was it Ground Control?
Yeah. Because I moved there 78, so You went to the high school the first year that the high school was opened.
Yep, we were the
Like
sort of first students that went from first all the way right through to fifth.
Yeah, well, I went. I was in Meldrum for a year, so kind of before I went to the high school, because I'm the year below you, and if you remember, but it was kind of like, and I was interested in music in 78, 79. You couldn't not be, but as soon as you kind of like you went up to the high street, you really had to make a decision about your identity.
Yeah,
You know, and for me, I think it was just natural leaning towards punk, because it was exciting.
mm-hmm.
You know, it was exciting. You'd kind of like, you'd go to Ingleston Market, and you'd get your badges from there.
Yep.
And then you'd be in the school the next day showing off all the badges that you bought at Ingleston Market for a quid or
That was
50p.
another one of the things. Every Sunday,
Yeah.
you joined the football club that used to be in, where you could go for a beer and that on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Beans.
Yeah.
Well, they used to run a bus to Ingleston Market every Sunday for 50p. So they would take you there and bring you back 6 hours later. And we used to go in and just go on a shoplifting spree and just steal everything.
So 78. Yeah. So you went to the high school 78. Was it? What were your findings? What did you think of it?
I thought it was actually, it was quite strange, because we were kind of told, you're no kids, we're treating you as young adults.
Yeah.
And it was a lot bigger, and there was a lot more kids, and it was strange for me, because it wasn't just kids for Deans, which was when I was at Dean's Primary. No, this was kids for Knightsbridge, Ladywell, Carmen, Dean. There was loads of people, and they all kind of congregated into their own wee groups at first. But until kind of like barriers got broke down a wee bit, and I think probably it was through like groups, music choices, that kind of stuff, that people kind of opened up, and Livingston kind of spread out a wee bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because we talked about it before. Kind of like Livingston was broken up with underpasses. So you know, you had Dean's. Carmen Dean really only started existing when I moved there, 78. That's when the first schemes were built, maybe the year before. You had Knightsbridge, you had Ladywell, you had Howden, you had Craigshill, and then you had Dedridge, and Livingston Village as well. You know, but that was almost a separate identity to the rest.
That was kind of out the way. I mean, that was a village on its own, if you like, you know.
Yeah. But did you go and see Another Youth when they played there in, must have been 1980?
I remember being down in Dougie and Graham's house with Big Scott, the big brother, when they were still called Skewer.
Okay, I can't remember that.
There was Scott Patterson on vocals, Graham and Dougie on guitar and bass, and Billy Mitchell was on drums. It was the very first band, Skewer, and then they changed to Another Youth. Yeah.
Because I remember
the very first time I saw it Exploited in 1980, Another Youth was supposed to back them up, but Big John wouldn't let Dougie use his guitar, so that was that fucked. So the Exploited just played on the radio.
Where was that?
The nightclub.
Was it? Okay. Because the first time I saw them was when they played. They backed the Ramones at the Playhouse.
All right.
And that must have been 1980. Because I know I was with Liam, and I'm pretty certain I was with Dickie was there, and maybe Dougie was there as well. And I kind of like, it was a totally wrong venue to see the Ramones in, because it was all seater, and you kind of like, it's crap. The Playhouse is crap to see a punk band in, and I do remember at that time. Thinking the Exploited were better than the Ramones, but you had Chris on stage with his dog, and you had Bongo and Bear kind of like not standing too far behind them, So it was all entertaining, But my first gig, I went to see the UK Subs in Middlesbrough,
When was that?
It must have been May 1980, and so I was 12 at that point. And they had anti-pasty supporting, but the Middlesbrough Rock Garden was a kind of like quite a fierce club, and there was a lot of tension in the air, but it was just such a great gig to go and see, you know.
Not a bad gig for your first one.
Oh, brilliant! And then the Ramones with the Exploited was the next one. But I kind of, I think you probably. What was your first one?
Crass, 1979, and the nightclub as well. Crass, Poison Girls, and Anti-Anxiety.
That was later on, wasn't it? That was either the end of 80 or beginning of 81.
No, 79. That was the very first gig I was at. 79.
Because I remember you going to see Crass, I think, with you at the nightclub, and that was an under-18s gig.
That's the one, because Puff ended up getting in for nothing. We were standing right down at the very front, and Steve Ignan had come down, and I said, anybody want to come in and give us a hand? And fucking Puff nipped in before me, and I was fucking raging. God rest his soul.
Yeah. Did he?
Do you know Kevin's nowhere's anymore?
I didn't know. No.
Nah, he died two, maybe 3 years ago. I think it was pancreatic cancer or something. He died.
Right. Okay. You know, it's see, for me, I remember being at the front for Crass, and then kind of like slowly moving away from the front, because I didn't, after the first one or two songs, I found it all a bit too regimented for me. You know, it's the black uniforms and the television screens and the banners that they had. I didn't connect with it in the way that I thought I would have done, you know.
I did like Crass back in the day. I couldn't listen to Crass now.
Yeah. See, I can listen to them now, but I couldn't listen to them back in the day, you know.
I find it awfully kind of bland. And don't get me wrong, I mean, people are probably going to fucking crucify me for this. I don't mean it bland, it's just back in the 70s, the late 70s and early 80s, that's when it meant something to me. But then you remember yourself, mate, the No Future years, UK 82, and that just exploded, and everybody's kind of music perception changed a wee bit.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, do you remember that if it was the same Crass gig, Poison Girls had come on and Vi was throwing out badges, and everybody was fucking throwing them back like ninja stars, man, with the whole band were ducking and diving.
It would have been the same gig, you know what I mean? It would have been, because like I said, my first one was definitely UK Subs, and I remember going to see you, going to see Crass with you, the only time that they played at the nightclub, you know, and that would have been the tail end of 1980. I would have said, because for me it went from Subs, the Ramones, Crass, and then I think it Exploited at the nightclub, or maybe the Damned. Did you go and see the Damned at the Odeon?
For me, it was Crass 79 in the nightclub, Exploited 1980 in the nightclub, and then the Damned and the Odeon 1981 with Annie Nowhere League supporting them.
Yeah, because I saw the Damned.
That's the dates I've definitely got in my head anyway. That's the dates I keep telling you. What was your first gig? Crass 1979. Hope I'm not going fucking wrong.
I saw the Damned with Lenny, and there was a load of others were there as well. And I think that would have been 1980. They had the Straps supporting at the Odeon.
All right.
You know, but it's 80 or 81. But I definitely remember the Straps supporting them, because I've spoken to a few people about it since.
When was it the Damned single Friday the 13th came out? Because they were selling that at the gig. That was kind of that was a single launch tour for that. And I remember buying Danny Nowhere League album after we saw them at the gig.
I would say that was 81, you know.
I'm reckoning 81 for the Damned. And
they definitely played there before that. But it was kind of like, where did you get your records from at that point?
There was Rainbow Records down the centre was no bad. But do you remember Budgies and Bathgate? Yeah. Budgies was the place to go.
Yeah. Because I never really went.
All the records on there, man.
I never really went through to Bathgate. I preferred going up to the centre. you know. But even the centre, talking about the different underpasses, you know, sometimes you were walking a tightrope up in the centre if your face didn't fit.
If you came to the wrong part of Livy, I
Yeah.
remember you remember yourself, mate, dog in the high school, walking down to the centre and just walking round and round and round for fucking 6 hours until you're looking, you could go home and your man that wasn't back to work yet.
Yeah. See, I was always quite disciplined. I never dogged school for the first 2 years. But then the next 2 years...
I was not bad the first couple of years, I must admit, aye. But then I discovered glue.
I never did that, but I never went in for the next 2 years. I just kind of like, whatever I was doing, whatever I was doing was more interesting than school. I had. I'm
just going to grab a beer. I'll just be half a second.
Yeah.
There we go. Fridge is just behind me, nice and handy.
I had an English teacher in class. He turned around one day and went, "You don't do anything here. You might as well just go home." I just packed up my bag, walked down the fire exit because it was on the first floor, down to the door at the bottom. He came running down the stairs and kind of like went, "I didn't mean that. You come back up to the class." So I came back up the class, but I never went back in after that. I just thought, what's the point of going back in? You know, but in hindsight, I kind of like, I don't regret anything, but at the same time, you know, it probably wasn't the right school for me. You know, you know, my education, I got away from the school, and I probably learned more from being away from the school than I could have done whilst I was in the school. You know,
I couldn't wait to get out into the big wide world and start making money, mate. You know.
Yeah, but it's kind of like part of my issue is kind of like there was a big culture of no future. You know, the expectancy was that you were going to sign on, and you know, even your mates, people in your year or the year above, they'd get a job working on a building site and then sack it off after a week. You know, because
there's a song, mate. It's called 2 Million Voices. You remember the time?
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, fucking, that was the highest unemployment. Fucking, it was a horrible time, mate. People were, the 80s were great. The 80s were fucking horrible, man.
Yeah, it was when you're 14, 15, and you know you're not. Prospects. I think I suppose I was quite confident I could do something, but at the same time I didn't know what I didn't know how to get where I wanted to be. You know, and I probably needed somebody to guide me in a particular way. You know, but.
I think back then I didn't know what I wanted to be, mate. I just wanted to just be out and there's money and there's beer and there's lying in my bed and there's going to gigs, you know, fucking, let's leave school, fucking brilliant. You know, but
we go back to, I think the first time I went to the community centre or the youth club, whatever it was called, up at the top of the high street down the Sunday, that was probably 79. When I'd gone to the high school, because that's when we started mingling with people from Dean's primary school, you know. So your Bob Quigleys and your Big Callums and you know,
both passed away.
Yeah,
both of them quite recent as well, man.
Yeah. I came up for Bob's funeral.
Yeah. I said, well, at that kind of age, mate, you know, it's people seem to be surprised, but we're at that age where we are going to start losing people, unfortunately. It's a fucking horrible fucking thing to even contemplate, you know?
It is. But that youth club was kind of like the hub of activity, you know. It was quite essential for the community and building up, you know, kind of like getting to know people.
I listened to records for the first time. Loads up there. I mean, Raimi was forever bringing the first time I heard Wonder of a Bank for the Oi album was up there because Raimi had got it and they brought it up and I'm like, wow, what? That's fucking how would you get that? Was that? I wasn't that.
Well, I think I took a record up one Sunday or 2 records and some older person stole them and then that was it. I never took any records back after that. you know.
I'm sure, was it no you that brought up Harry May?
Might have been,
The single?
you know. Might have been.
I'm sure it was you, because I'm sure that's the first time I heard it was up at the youth club.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was you, because you used to manage your business, did you not?
Nah, I was just friends with him, you know.
Right.
I was just friends with. I'd stay with Lowell a couple of times when I went down to London, you know, and kind of like knew the band, and you know, obviously Mickey passed away. I saw their last gig down at New Cross, the last UK gig. Anyway, you know, that was quite sentimental, because it's, you know, out of all the bands, I think their songs kind of like have carried with a bit of weight. You know, they were good songs. You know, whether it was Steve Kent written or whether it was Steve Whale written, you know, they were good songs. You know, Mickey was
one of my favourite bands to them.
Yeah, Mickey was always a good performer. You know, but he kind of, I think we stopped going down the youth club when I was 14, 15. You know, I think
I would be about that. Round about then, we'd all be sitting bevying and that kind of stuff. And then by that time, you were kind of hooked up. You'd met up with Chris, Bongo, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's when I stopped going to school.
Aye. Well, that was, I mean, but we were all the younger ones looking up to all them. I mean, because they boys had some reputation, as you remember.
Yeah. Well, Livingston had quite a fierce reputation at that point.
Livingston had a horrible reputation. The Livy Skins were known throughout the fucking country, man.
Yeah. You know, but it was always, because we were talking about gigs earlier, it was always quite, I think post 81, there was hardly any gigs.
It went really quiet for a long, long time, yeah.
You know, there was the gathering of the clans through in Glasgow at the Apollo.
Dougie was at that. He's still got the signed ticket. Becky signed it for him, so he's over the fucking moon, eh?
So that, because we all went through on the bus through there, so it was a bus of, I think, 30 or 40 Livingston, and it was quite a scene from memory. You know, we never got in. We
went through to see Vice Squad and Night Moves in Glasgow.
Yeah.
But it didn't open till midnight.
Yeah.
So me and Dave fucking dogged to school. We'd left school about fucking dinner time that day, got the bus through to fucking Glasgow, got changed at his fucking big sister's house, shuffled our asses up to fucking Socky Hall Street, finally found out where fucking Night Moves was. I doesn't open till midnight, mate. First band's not until 1 o'clock. Fuck it, but bus on the way home, man. And that was when it was fucking back in the old Wild West stagecoach days, when it took you 2 hours to have on a bus to Glasgow, because they went every fucking where, you know. Oh, God, man.
Well, we used to get the Edinburgh bus from which was the Bathgate bus, wasn't it?
The 16 and the 17.
Yeah.
They went down the old fucking bottom road.
Yeah, through Broxburn and Uphall.
That's the one at the Bathgate that way, yeah.
Yeah. You know, but it's like I said, Edinburgh was just a barren place for gigs. 81 onwards, you know.
There was nothing really in Scotland, no. You could still get music, didn't get me wrong. I mean, my record, CD and tape collection will attest to the fact that I've still bought, when I started buying records, say 1977 or 78, whatever, right, there was no point I didn't buy records. At no point was I not listening to punk. But there was a time for, I was listening to other stuff. I quite like the Happy Mondays, the Spiral Carpets. I like that kind of stuff as well. See, Lords of the New Church, Spear of Destiny. They filled a hole, you know, Sisters of Mercy, that kind of stuff. They filled a hole when punk wasn't really kind of in your face as much, you know.
See, what happened to me is we moved away from Livingston for whatever reason, and I had 6 months in Edinburgh, and I didn't really want to live in Edinburgh, and I also probably always knew that I was going to move back to England at some point. You know, I always knew that, and so I moved to Manchester when I was 16, and just kind of like, I remember it one night being round my mate's Doyle's house, and he had a Cockney Rejects 7-inch on his shelf, and I think I went to get it, and he said, and this was 1983, he said, I haven't played that for 3 years. So kind of like what had happened in Manchester, kind of like I suppose the street music, you know, kids my age, they were all listening to electro and hip hop and soul. So you kind of like slowly over a period of time, you get acclimatized into new music, you know, and that was, you know, that was what the youth of Manchester were into, you know, which is, if I think back in it, if I'd stayed in Livingston, I might have, you know, even though I did still see punk bands throughout the 80s, and still, you know, I had my friends that I would, you know, like the business that I would see. It wasn't important to me after a while. I was, you know, because I have thought about this, and I spoke about it to somebody earlier today, that I was always interested in listening to new music that I'd never heard before. And that was always the buzz about it, you know, because if you were buying sounds back then, you know, Gary would write something about this band from Evesham, Spoils of War, or, you know, Criminal Class or whoever. You'd be like, what do they sound like? But you couldn't hear them. You know what I mean? There's no way you couldn't just click on the internet these days, and like you do these days, and kind of like you can hear what they sound like.
No idea how lucky they've got it, let me tell you.
Yeah, you'd have to be lucky. Kind of like, you know, if I was through in Edinburgh, I mean, Edinburgh at that point had better record shops than Glasgow. You know, you know, Listen was great on. That was Frederick Street, or Hanover, Frederick Street, wasn't it? That was Frederick Street. You had the other record shop on the Royal Mile, which was a great shop. You had all the little
vinyl villains.
Yeah, well, you had Bruce's as well, which you know, he had about 3 shops on the go at that time, and then you had Virgin when Virgin was a decent shop. You know, when that was opposite Listen, wasn't it? In 79, 80, before they moved to the mega store. So it was all quite interesting, and you were relying on, if you went to that weekend, which you did do all the time.
You went quiet again, mate.
Can you hear me?
That's it. You
know, so you were reliant on what the shops had bought during the week to what records were available. You know, and having had a record shop, you kind of like realise you can't stock every single release. You know, possible.
Oh no, you're never going to make any money that way.
No.
I remember being on a school trip with, do you mind Joan Smith, the teacher? She was a PSE teacher.
Okay,
personal social education. But she took us to Edinburgh one day, and I said, Miss, is it all right? There's a band that I want to go and buy a single, and I nipped up to Bruce's and Rose Street, and it was Cockney Rejects Bagman. And I came back and I went, oh, excellent, I can't wait to get him and play that. Excellent, I managed to buy this on my school time as well. You're a belter.
I remember Big Pete Marshall. He had before, because he left at the end of the second year. He had the Greatest Hits Volume 1, you know, and you kind of like, you were looking at the sleeve with the printed inner sleeve with all the pictures on and all the names on. You kind of like starstruck, going, oh fuck, you know, this is what I want to copy this, you know, which you'd go out and then you'd find a copy at some point, you know.
That's what made me want it. I still think that's their best album, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but it's kind of like at that point, because they did an under-18 gig in Edinburgh at the Astoria, and that was on the same weekend that the UK subs played in Middlesbrough. So if I'd have stayed in Livingston, I probably would have gone to see the Rejects in Edinburgh. Instead, I was down in Middlesbrough with my grandparents, and I went to see the subs down there. So, you know, I have a choice. It would have been, that weekend would have been the weekend I would have gone to a gig.
Big bands are still going strong as well. Saying that, though, the Cockney Rejects are scaling down their tour. That's their last year of touring next year, isn't it?
Yeah. But you never say never, do you? You know.
Once you get, if somebody offers you the right gig, you'll take it, mate, you know?
Yeah. But it's kind of like, because we had a lot of fun. Definitely, you had an extra year on me, but I think my first school disco was 79. And
they were brilliant.
And you know, up until probably the 3 or maybe 4 years the school discos were great for us, you know.
Aye. Absolutely. I remember there was 1 year, 1 week, somebody brought up it was the Partisans single. It wasn't the first one, it was the second one. I think it was they had the song Bastards in Blue on it.
Yeah.
And they played that and they called it the Police song, and the place went fucking mental. So the following week they wouldn't play any punk. So we were sitting about, and the guy's like, I can't play it. So he said, go and put some ABBA on. So he put on fucking Dancing Queen or something, and we just all took to the fucking dance floor and just jumped about like fucking maniacs. Well, you'll not stop us, fuck you.
But it's kind of like they banned Can Can, didn't they?
That's right, aye.
Yeah, and they banned Tom Hanks. Is it Tom Hanks?
The Piranhas.
The Piranhas, yeah, they banned the Piranhas. You know.
That's it, fucking hell, aye. And the B-side of that's called Getting Beaten Up. I've got it up the stairs, actually.
And then we all did this kind of like weird dance to Tube Army, Our Friends Electric, where you kind of like cross your arms, kind of like shoulders across the dance floor like that, you know. But it was, I mean, they were a great introduction to music, you know. It's kind of like everybody, you know, a mixture of Deans and Knightsbridge and the
good thing is, well, you knew everybody though, because it's people you were at school with.
Yeah.
So you were comfortable off, you know.
Yeah.
And then you remember as well though, there was the punks would be on one side, then you'd have the rude boys, then you'd have, you know, the girls would all be doing that side, you know, that, and then the mods, if there was any mods that weren't getting beaten up at the time, they'd maybe turn up, you know.
I think I remember that first disco I went to. I remember Jing and Toad. I think Madness had just done that two-toed tour in Mid-Calder, and they were doing the old clashing headbutting on the dance floor bit. And as a young 12-year-old, you're fascinated, going, "What the fuck's that?" You know. But I think it's possibly shortly after that I became a skinhead, or maybe a year later. You know.
I was the same. I mean, I would have said I was a punk from 1979 to maybe 1980, and then you had the kind of sort of No Future was starting to come to the fore. That's when I thought that I like that style of fashion. Punk was, to me, was kind of messy, whereas I love the punk style now. See bum flaps, but you know, front flaps, looking bondages. I think that's brilliant now. But back then, I thought, you scruffy bastard. So I used to love like the Stay Press, or a pair of army greens, or even like bleached jeans, a flight jacket, a Harrington, a Ben Sherman shirt, a braces of cardigans. I thought that was better. But now I'm like, nah, I'd rather be a scruffy fucking cunt, you know.
I think I've always just quite liked dressing the way that I wanted to dress, you know. And I think that when I was a punk, what I didn't like was dressing up for the school disco. You know what I mean? Oh. And it was just, and I think later on, you know, when I did become a skinhead, then I could wear that 24/7.
Yep.
You know, so that I
wasn't an outfit to go to one sort of fucking thing. Yeah. It was, I wear this all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't feel as if I was being a bit of a plastic by just kind of like, you know, putting on my best, you know, bondage trousers or whatever I'd made, you know.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, a pair of Levi's, a pair of Docs, a white T-shirt or whatever, braces and a cardigan. You know, perfect. And yeah, you can go to anything with that. You can go to a wedding dress like that, you know.
Yeah. So you must have left school in '82 then.
Yeah.
So what did you do when you left school?
I was on the. Do you remember the YOP scheme, YOP?
Yeah. And then it was a YTS after that.
I was on the very last YOP scheme, and it was where the hell was it? It was at Oak Ridge College, and I was training to be a fucking forester. I had no interest in being a fucking forester. Let's just go fucking forest on me, you know. So, excuse me, that was 3 months, and it was 25 quid a week plus a £5 expenses. So 30 quid a week. The dole money was 34 quid a fortnight. I was getting 30 quid a week. I was fucking laughing. So once that finished, I got another one working with the LDC. Remember the Livingston development? Yeah. You cut the grass and all that kind of shit. So again, 25 quid a week plus a £5 expenses. Yeah. That'll do me nicely. And then somebody had said to me, my uncle's, he washes dishes in the hotels in Edinburgh, and he's getting fucking 80 quid a week. That's nearly 3 times what I'm fucking getting. So, needless to say, silly cunt jumped on the bus away through Edinburgh, and I got a job in the Cali Hotel washing dishes. And sure enough, I was getting 80 quid a week.
Yeah.
So that financed me going out. You know what I mean? I was out at fucking gigs, or I was out at the pub, you know yourself, Rav's Bar and the football club. That was a Hobby Dean's. And so we were always in there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that was it, just getting fucking drunk. I just, after that, got into the bowling game. I mean, the stuff I've told you has been in the space of maybe like 18 months.
Yeah.
After that, I got into construction. I mean, I got about half my man. It was a Sunday morning, about fucking 6:45. Got up. Harry Meikle's at the fucking door. God rest his soul again. He's wanting you to go and fucking work. He's the foreman for Tarmac. Right, I mean, I've made your pieces, so I'm dragged out of my bed, still half steaming for the night before, bundled in the back of this car. Have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Get driven to this fucking building site, and that was me ever since.
Yeah.
So I've been a scaffolder for the past 35 years.
It's only in later life you understand that kind of like new towns are built on 3 stages, which when you think of it, it's natural. So it's building houses, getting people there, and finding them jobs. So between 78 and 83, which is when I lived there, that's when they were building houses and recruiting people to move into them. But the jobs were quite scarce, which is what we said. And it seemed to change when all those Far East electronic companies started coming in.
That was massive for Livingston. You know yourself, mate, we were Silicon Glen. I mean, we were the hub of the whole world for electronics. Anywhere that made electronics in a factory here, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody worked. If you didn't work, somebody in your family did, or you knew somebody that did, you know.
Yeah.
But then that rug was pulled out from under everybody's feet, and they all fucked off, and there's thousands of people winning jobs. Back to square one again. You know?
Yeah. So I mean,
capitalism for you, capitalism fucking sucks. Don't get me started, man.
That's capitalism for you. Just exactly what I was going to say. So you like, you know, I was just saying that, you know, my musical taste started to change because I moved away and I was living in a totally different environment. You know, I remember one weekend or 1 week when Lenny came down to visit me, and I took him to my local, the Moldorf on the Kingsway. And he walked in with 12-hole DM boots on, kind of like jeans up to his knees, and a number 1 or a 0 head shave, and Union Jack braces on. And my mates just took the mickey out of him for the whole time, which you kind of like, I look back, because it's kind of like that, you know, Manchester had moved on quite a bit, and you know, it suddenly, you know, Lenny was still stuck in that, you know, that 80, 81 kind of period. I would have said, you know, the
Manchester music scene's been fucking the hobby, fucking I don't know how long, you know, for absolute fucking influencing fucking music genres, mate. You know.
Yeah. So you stayed with punk then, you know, as your.
I did stay with punk, yeah, but no exclusively as it used to be. It was always, I don't listen, I'm a punk and I listen to Skinner, I'm a Skinner and I listen to punk as well.
Yeah.
It got, lots of the new chops, they're quite interesting. That was that guy for fucking the Vibrators that's in them. Oh, I'll check them out. You know, and then I thought, well, Billy Idol's doing a wee bit of his fucking solo stuff. That's not bad, I quite like that, which would maybe lead you into something else, you know, but I've always been a punk. I mean, I was away for going to gigs for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'll quite happily admit that. I wasn't at gigs. At no time was I not a punk. Yeah. I've always considered myself a punk. For the day I decided I wanted to be a punk to the day I die, I'll be a punk.
Yeah.
And as my record collection will attest, I mean, all these people that give it fucking, you know, all the fucking shit, you know, for plastic punks fucking never turning up and that kind of stuff. I've been at gigs that I've never seen anybody else at. You know, it's people. I don't know what it's like this, but people kind of jump on the Rebellion bandwagon. If it's not a big name band, they're not interested. If they're not playing at Rebellion on a 4-day festival, we're not going. What about the fucking 5 bands you can get for fucking £8? and the Banshee in Edinburgh every fucking Saturday night. Where the fuck are you been there playing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's going to be a time when see all your big headline bands at Rebellion, none of them are fucking here. They're all finished. So where's the new fucking talent coming from?
Yeah. I said this.
I didn't want to rant, but it's kind of annoying where punks kind of get this fucking closed-minded attitude where they didn't want to go out and support the day-to-day stuff. They just want the fucking, the fucking 2 DVD with a fucking ice cream break, fucking punk rock, you know what I mean?
But it's kind of,
that's my opinion, though.
I said this to Neil the other day, that for any scene to survive, you've always got to have new punk bands new bands coming through, new music coming through, or you just stagnate where because you can only listen to the same songs over and over again. You need to have good new bands coming through, for sure.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, fucking, you can't be a big name draw. And to be honest, every band that's on the Rebellion, I would probably happily go and fucking see. I'm not slating anybody. It's not a dig at anybody at all. It's just the idea that it's got to be this big fucking all fucking singing, all dancing. No, there's fucking 3 and 4 year old fucking bands that are out there that have been slogging their fucking guts out, and 3 people go to fucking see them.
Yeah.
And they're fucking brilliant. Give them a chance.
Yeah.
That's just fucking me, I suppose.
So when did Livingston break down these subways then? When did it start mingling with each other?
I would say 89 into 90 was when kind of Melville's was the big play. I mean, do you remember Melville's and nightclub?
I went to Melville's a few times.
Well, I mean, there was coachloads of people. I was a bouncer in fucking Melville's for fucking God knows how long. That was another one of the sidelines I had security and that kind of stuff. But of a Saturday night, you're supposed to have maybe say 1,100 in. We've had fucking 1,300 people in. There's coachloads coming for every. I mean, it was a cattle fucking market. And if you've been in the industry, I keep saying this to fucking the wife and that kind of stuff. See, if you want a busy fucking establishment, get it full of women. And then every guy's going to come to your establishment. So that's what it was. It was catered towards women.
Yeah.
So it was always fucking heaving,
Yeah.
So that's what I was in there that all the time fucking. But I said I jumped into in the door. I did that for quite a while, but you stick with what I fucking say or thumb, because I thought I can't be charging about with bleached jeans and what a skin heat if I'm doing the door. So I ended up growing my hair out, but I had a flat top and it was fucking bleached blonde and it was razor fucking short. So I looked like probably some kind of Nazi or something. The fucking furthest thing to fucking could be the truth, I better shut the fuck up before I dig myself a hole.
But it was
definitely anti-fascist, mate. Definitely anti-fascist.
the other thing that changed as well is I think that must have been mid-late 80s when Livingston opened up a train station.
Yep.
Because then transport into Edinburgh improved rapidly, almost overnight.
That's the thing. See, with the train, you can get into Edinburgh in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
On the bus, you're an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And see, when you've been to a gig, the last thing you want is an hour and a half bus journey. Because you've been on the bevy all night and there's no bit to have a piss. Oh, for fuck's sake. See, try to hold it in for an hour and a half on the bus. It's not happening. No, it's not good.
Did you go to any of those gigs down at the what was it? Where was the basketball place in Livingston?
You mean the Forum?
Forum, yeah.
Mrs. used to work in the Forum.
Did she?
She did fucking David Bowie, Aerosmith, all that kind of stuff. No, I was at Body Count and Exploited down at the Forum.
Yeah.
I've still got the Body Count fucking beanie. Dougie's still got fucking iced teas, fucking, I think it was a Kestrel Lager fucking bar mat, and that was his fucking sweat towel, and he threw it at Dougie, and he's still fucking going to this day. He threw a sweaty fucking rag at you, you'd have come, I would jumped up on stage and punched him.
So if you drifted off kind of like the punk scene, when did he get back involved, or when did he start going to see bands again? Because everybody goes through cycles. You can't do the same thing week in, week out for all of your life. It becomes stale at a point.
Me and the wife got together long story, but she's not a punk, she's a rock chick. Her whole life was spent going to Dreadnought and Bathgate, and you remember what that kind of place was like.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, 2 years got together. And she never ever stopped me. She never ever said, don't ever go. But I thought, I'd rather go and do stuff with you. So as opposed to going to a gig, Mum will go out for a meal or something. I still listen to punk music and that kind of stuff. I mean, my daughter grew up in a crib in front of the telly with fucking P-Rock on it, and it was just punk rock all day, just getting blasted. So she's known fucking music for the minute she could hear, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what was the question? Sorry, man, I fucking ramble here.
I was just which bands kind of like played in Livingston and at the Forum, but it was Body Count, The Exploited.
Aye, but you went on for that. And I started rambling. I was answering your question and I forgot what the fuck I was talking about. Sorry,
I think I've lost myself. So when did he get back into punk, and you know when did he?
There we go. So me and the wife got together. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Me and the wife got together. She wasn't into punk. I never forced her and that kind of stuff. So we got married, had our daughter, and she knew punk. So it wasn't until she was maybe I don't know, about 10, I think. So that'd be what, fucking 11 years ago. So 11 years from now was when I really kind of started going back to gigs. So that'd be what, fucking 2000 and, where are we now, 2022?
2022, yeah, for sure.
So this is 2011, I pretty much started going back to gigs full time. There was other, I mean, I've been to see Rancid fucking loads of times. I caught the Offspring, Green Day, No Effects and that kind of stuff. But to be going to gigs on a regular basis would be 2011. But I mean, all through the 90s, I went to see, I definitely went, there was, I think I've seen Rancid 2 or 3 times we saw them. Green Day, Offspring, twice, No Effects. Oh, there was shitloads of them fucking, but that was like, that year I saw that band and I wasn't catching a gig again, and a year later I caught that band and that kind of stuff. But no, definitely 2011 was when I started hitting the gig scene again. But that was catching 2 and 3 gigs a month.
When did those Livy Punk's Christmas parties start?
That was Big Ek. You mind Ek for the UK Anarchist? Or 9 Bullets, or fucking Sequence 369, or his newest band, Split This. Oh, he's fucking mad. He's just bought a copy of the new album as well. So that would be 2014. Ek and his wee, excuse me, Ek and his wee bra stayed at the Tower Music Rooms. And they put on, there was some fucking cracking gigs down there, man. Oh, you had Conflict, Zounds, the whole Anarcho Weekender, the Defects, Vice Squad, Sham 69. Oh, the fucking lineups were fantastic, and it was so poorly attended.
Yeah.
Don't know how many times I said to people standing and said, the odd bloody punk that had turned up. See if this was fucking 10, 20 years ago in Livy, this place would be fucking heaving. Where the fuck are these all? You're all sitting in the house watching Britain's Got the Pop Idol fucking Bone Dance Factor, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
You know, but hey, there was some fucking brilliant nights. It was the saddest night of my life when Big Ek messaged me to say, that's me shut there. I can't do it anymore. I mean, Ek lost everything. But
that's not good. You know, but it's sometimes you take a gamble in life, and you know, you follow a gamble that is your passion, that you want it to succeed. So you know, the memories that he'll have from those gigs will carry him through for the rest of his life. You know,
definitely. Never once has he complained, mate. No, never once has he complained. He's actually said the words, "I would do it all again in a heartbeat," knowing how it was going to end. But some fantastic times. They were nights that would have been, if that had been happening when we were still about away back in the early 80s, Livy would have been the hub of Scottish music, or punk music anyway, you know.
Yeah.
And that was
but it did have a fearsome reputation, you know, in certainly, you know, with gigs in Edinburgh, which is quite amazing considering the size of the place.
Scrotty's song, Livy Punks are in town, you better get out of the way.
Yeah.
You're all scared of us because we're into anarchy. It does exactly what it says in the tin, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, Libby did have a horrible reputation, mate. Like I say, back in that was the style back in the day. It was a horrible reputation, you know.
So you when did you form your band Reality Asylum?
That must be probably about 2018. The idea came about 2019. It was pretty much set with the lineup we've got there now.
So where did you meet the lineup? Because they're not from Livingston, from what I can see.
No. Well, Big X brother Drew, he had approached me after the Upstarts Christmas Livy Punks party. I think it was 2016. Would I be interested in fronting a band that he was going to start? So that's where Distorted Vision came about. We were supposed to be a male and female fronted band, but it never turned out. The lassie that was penciled in for it didn't work out, and it ended up I did the practices. Fuck it, we'll just stay as a 4-piece. So I'd always wanted to do it, and I'd known Kaz for ages. So I'd said to her, "Do you fancy getting a band together, you and me up front?" And then we built the band round about that. And the lineup we've got now is pretty much us finalised. It's the lineup that's recorded the album.
And the album's just come out on CD.
That's the CD there now, mate. We're hoping. We've spoken to. I'm not know what I say names because it's nothing's been written down, but we've spoken to somebody that puts out records. Pardon me, a way back before the pandemic, when the album was supposed to be getting started recording that kind of stuff, who had said we'd be interested in fucking maybe putting you on vinyl. So we'll see how it goes for here. Now we've got the CD out. If somebody would like to put us on vinyl, that'd be absolutely brilliant. We'd love it. Yeah.
So that's good. It seems to me like you go to a gig almost every weekend.
As much as I can, mate. Yep.
From looking at your Facebook page, you're kind of like, you know, there's always a gig memory coming up from 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
What I'm saying, mate, I'd rather go to a gig where I'm getting 5 bands for a tenner than going to a gig where I'm getting 1 band and a support who I've never heard of for 35 quid. You know? Because one day, these bands that are fucking 5 for a tenner are going to be the 35 quid. Hopefully, you know.
So what up and coming bands do you rate?
God, how long have you got? Well,
give us 5.
I'd definitely like to push us for a start, but I mean that's bias, you know. But oh God, there's fucking millions of bands. Oi bands, Rare Breed, they're brilliant, and our Scottish band, Buzzbomb. I don't know why Buzzbomb aren't anywhere near as big as they are. They're absolutely spectacular. They've been going for fucking a good few years. They're brilliant. They're not an up and coming band. God, who else are fucking? You put me on the fucking spot now, man. There's a million bands. No, it's up and coming bands. The Guillotines, another Scottish band as well. The 27s, another good Scottish band. Oh, mate, I could go on for fucking ages. If you want, I'll send you links to fucking a million videos on my YouTube account.
I've seen them. What did Jock from GBH call you?
He said we sound like the Scottish Violators. I thought that was quite good. We played the Blackpool Punks picnic last year in the Waterloo, and a guy, Carol Brown, he'd come up and introduce himself and said, "Listen, really enjoyed your set as well if I join your company for a while." So he sat about and he equated us to a cross between Dirt and the Newtown Grunts. And I thought, I like the sound of that. But it wasn't until Jock said the Scottish Violators, I thought, that's a pair of boots I'd like to fill. Aye, definitely. I could wear that hat. No, so there you go. That's hat and boots.
So have you got many gigs lined up?
We're playing this Thursday, actually. We're playing Legends in Edinburgh on the 30th of June.
Where's Legends?
It used to be, oh God, I'm trying to think where you'd know in Edinburgh. If you come along the Grass Market, and the castle's up on your left-hand side, you kind of go as though you're going to head. Do you know where Bannerman's is?
You mean on Yeah, I know where Bannerman's is. Yeah.
But it's no, but you're heading towards Bannerman's. Just as you're on the grass market and the castle's just up on your left-hand side,
Yeah.
it's a venue in there. It used to be, oh God, it's no opium and it's no, oh, I can't remember the name of it. You'll know the venue. We were at gigs away back then anyway, and we played with the Subhumans there in March.
Yeah.
That was a good gig. That
That's
was a
good.
brilliant gig with the Subhumans.
Thank you, Mark, for your time.
Not a problem, no.
Have a good night.
You too, mate.